Hey everyone, I'm Julia, the music community manager on Pixabay. And today I'm thrilled to have one of the most talented creators on Pixabay, Jeremiah from Brotheration Records, here with me. I'm a huge fan of your music and I love reggae music, so it's a huge pleasure for me to be hosting such an interview. So, Jeremiah, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Julia. I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about something that I love, which is making reggae music. So,
Awesome. So, let's get started. First of all, we'd like to know more about your personal journey and the label. So, can you share what first drew you to reggae? And was there like a moment or influence that inspired you to dive into this genre?
I've been performing and producing reggae, mostly a lot of reggae music, in addition to others, but focus on reggae for over 30 years, actually. Um, I am from Los Angeles. Uh, in the early 90s, I got to see some great Jamaican legends come out from the ska era. Got to see their old original Scotalites when they were still alive, playing a number of times. Played with local bands. Got to actually tour with the Scotalites as an opening act, and that was in the early '90s. And then went on in more in doing reggae. There's a very healthy reggae audience here in California, so a lot of the legends from the late '60s and mid '60s and into the '70s were when they were still alive and they were still touring. We'd get to see them. They'd come out, and we really got kind of spoiled because I'm sure in Europe as well, but they always had Los Angeles as a destination. So I got to really see a lot of great legends. Got more focused in on reggae. Started touring with a number of reggae acts and started producing. Um, I actually began recording and producing reggae music in '95. I went with the group I was working with at the time to Jamaica. Stayed in Jamaica extensively. Produced an album at Tough Kong Studios in Kingston, which was really kind of a crash course into, okay, this is it. Reggae music is got to learn quite a bit, and I from the years before that, which 4 or 5 years I was into the music prior to going to Jamaica. Once I got to Jamaica, it was like just seeing the music for what it really was, the culture behind it, the just everything around reggae music as an art form that's really unique to Jamaica. And I think that increased my love and interest and fascination with the music overall. Continued working with mostly Jamaican artists at that time into the 2000s. I began touring with some Jamaican artists that were coming, like Tippa Irie, Horace Andy. Got to share open for almost every act. That was from the Marleys to Burning Spear, like a lot of
Wow.
festivals, shows. I got to meet a lot of people, and one thing I really loved about being in Jamaican music was that, unlike maybe some more popular forms of music like hip hop or pop music, the legends and the people that was loved, my favorite artists, I got to meet and hang out with and have dinner with, and like they were accessible. And that was something really special to me for like both the ska music era, when you still had legends that were Jamaican legends that were touring still, and into reggae. So I love that part of the music. Um, into 2000 and 2000 up to about 2005, I was still touring, and then I had my first child, so I kind of had to say, okay, hit the brakes for a little bit. So that yeah, so I kind of stepped back for about 5-10 years. I didn't work in marketing and uh high tech and other things for a few years there while I was raising my kids, so I could focus more at home. And then around 2015, which is kind of leads into like the current project that we're working on. In 2015, I got the opportunity, or I was asked to co-write and produce an album with uh, Jamaican artist Vernon Maytone. He's the lead singer of the Mighty Maytones from the '70s, of classic legendary reggae act.
Yeah.
And the band we put together to do it at that time I was living overseas, so they asked me to fly back to LA. All of us, a bunch of people, all came to Los Angeles in the studio and produced this album. And it was a great experience because the band that we put together to actually record the album was the year before in 2014 they had won the the Grammy for the best reggae album with Jimmy Cliff.
Wow.
So working with these guys were just spectacular players. They're really, really good. And we kind of walked into this project with the idea that we wanted to make it as kind of as authentic as a sound as they would have in like early 70s Kingston studios, right?
Mhm.
Very raw, very impromptu. We really wanted to capture that sound because one thing um, one thing we missed, I guess would call it, is a lot of the artists that were popular or made their names in the 70s and 80s in Jamaica as they continued to release music through the decades, and then a lot of them remained active and continued to release albums. The music always kind of kept up with whatever was current at the time. So whether it was like it moved into dancehall or it moved in more digital, it moved into other kind of genres. The music behind these artists, but a lot of us like and me, I really love old Jamaican music. We wanted to hear what could they do now. They're still so great with that old sound that we really just have like a sentimental for that old sound. So
Yeah.
um we took on this project thinking, okay, let's try to do this and see how it works. This band was fantastic. Had a great singer in Vernon Maytone, who's still currently active. Um, he just performed with Bedouin Sound Clash last month.
Wow.
He's still a great artist. Um, but we did it. So we got the studio there. I didn't give any of the music to any of the players before getting there. We got to the studio, everybody in one room at one time, all circled around each other. And then you say, okay, here's the idea. I'd sit on the piano and tell them, this is the changes, this is the chords. Think of something. Everybody brings something. And then with 15 minutes, like the entire song would be written, we'd hit record and run it through. And in a day and a half, we recorded off 14 complete songs from scratch, really,
Wow.
um,
That's
and the
impressive.
album, yeah, it was super fun, and it comes with all the little mess ups, all the tuning problems, all the
Mhm.
missed things. It's like you got to have, one thing that I think is, this is a personal aside, but um, as I've been producing music now with the current tools you have available to you, it's like everything is so perfect, so perfect, so
Yeah.
perfect, and it's easy to do, and it's almost expected. Like if you're going to release something now, it's expected that. But a lot of the things we kind of love from those old classic records is the people brought. I don't know if you call them mistakes, but they were real. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
way.
Some raw
It's like
expressions that just happen. Yeah.
yeah, sure. But another thing about it was those players were amazing. They knew that when they walked into a studio that a very expensive tape was running, a very expensive engineer was there, their time was like so they walked in there, these people spent all their time not looking for plugins like we
Mhm.
do today. They spent
Yeah.
all their time practicing their
Hey.
lines, right?
Yeah.
And so they came up with brilliant ideas, and we're still modern music is still grabbing their ideas, so i
Totally.
i um I love that part of the music production in the old analog era. And so anyhow, that was 2015, 2016. The
Mhm.
album got held up. It was never released until about 2019, um because I was left back overseas and couldn't follow through with the project, and it's how things kind of go. At
Yeah.
any rate, I came back to Los Angeles in 2019. Moved back to Los Angeles, and we said, hey, let's pick up where we kind of left off. Let's give this a try as a side project, and see what we can do. I mean, it's all real players. There's no virtual instruments at all.
Mhm.
um, and record it and then mix everything with analog gear. Do a recording on tape, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a huge pain in the butt. It's like it's really it's a lot of work, but
Yeah.
and it's not always perfect. Sometimes, and you don't get to go back and take and take and take and take and take. So it's like, oh well, that one didn't turn out so well. Okay, next one. So
Mhm.
um, we started the project, and some people started showing some interest in it,
Mhm.
and we continued to just make background rhythms, and talking to people that I knew in like the reggae music industry around, who are still performing and whatnot, who might want to be interested in doing like a kind of a classic sound 70s Jamaica sound music.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were, just because, one, it's just kind of something different, um, and so we've been able to collaborate a lot with a lot of different artists, dancehall artists, from dancehall, current dancehall artists that are working with us on songs, to old classic legends who are still performing and recording. So
Wow.
yeah, it's been fun. So that's pretty much where Brotheration Records kind of got its start in, and it's been really really been putting out any kind of music for about a year, a little over a year. So it's really brand new.
Yeah.
Um, but that's pretty much the overview of working and what the current project is.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. You can tell that the sound is very authentic, and I didn't know that it was full analogic. So, would you like to share a little bit more about the production and how your, yeah. Well, first of all, I would like to know first, how many instruments do you play? Because I see that you have some saxophone, but maybe you do everything. So I think that's important as well.
Uh, no, not really. I wish, but so it was kind of funny. I'm primarily, my main instrument is saxophone, and that's what I really started playing in the '90s, with saxophone. But then I realized I could get more work if I played keyboards. So you know, I was in my 20s and I wanted to get work, right? I mean, we're a starving musician, so I said, okay, I'll play keyboards. So I started playing keyboards, and I play a lot of piano, keyboards, organ,
Okay.
and didn't really play anything else until COVID. And then that when your idea was, in 2019, 2020, we said, okay, we're gonna produce records like we did in that 2015 project, where everybody comes together, crowded into a room, and records. Well, that wasn't happening.
Possible. Yeah.
So then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, does the guitar player is across town, but he can't come to my house. Does he know how to record himself? Nope, he doesn't know. He just plays his guitar. Okay, well, I'll figure out how to play guitar. So
Um,
I kind of rudimentary learned some instruments, like there's a lot of the songs on there that I'm playing bass, or I'm playing a little bit of guitar. I wouldn't call myself a guitar or bass player.
mhm.
I don't even try to play drums because I have too much respect for drummers. So that's someone, they got to figure it out. But
Wow.
yeah, mainly just like piano and saxophone is my main instruments.
Still very impressive. And also, so in Brotheration Records, you usually work with singers? Because I saw that on the tracks on Pixabay, I hear different voices. So I'm guessing that they are different artists. But
Yeah. So there we do work with different, like, originally we just started recording just the music itself, what they call in, like, Jamaican reggae, like rhythms, right? Just
yeah.
the underlying music. And then singers would hear it, or people we knew, hey, check this out. You want to do something? You got an idea for this? Okay, great. And then we put it together, and some of them would put vocals on. And that's when I thought, you know what? There's a lot of the songs, a lot of the instrumental songs you'll hear on Pixabay, for example, are
Yeah.
songs that we just like the band recorded, and then we thought, okay, well, let's put it out there, because in reggae music, um, I guess pop music even now too, but reggae music has a long history of, like, you get one rhythm, a song, and a lot of people put a bunch of a track, different, their own songs or their own melodies,
Yeah.
on top of those things. Um, whereas, in other genres, it's more like, oh, you want to have an original kind of music.
Yeah.
In reggae, and I think hip hop kind of inherited that from reggae, is like, you get a great sounding track, and then a bunch of people put their own take on top of that track, and that's a real respected form of songwriting in Jamaican music. So um, we did these. A lot of them are, take our own kind of takes on classic Jamaican rhythms, or just all originals. And then we would just talk to artists. Hey, do you have an idea for this? They'd listen to it. Oh yeah, I got something, and we'd do it. And then we'd say, okay, let's record. Get them in the studio, record the track, and put it on there. So you can have a number of singers on a single actual piece of music, which
Yeah.
is super efficient for us, right? I mean, because it's so laborious to get it done in the first place, but it also
Totally.
fits, kind of along with, like, back in the 70s, and even in the 70s and in the 80s in Jamaica, it was expensive for them too. So, like, if a producer or a studio could put together a single piece of music with all the musicians and have a number of singers put their own their own songs on top of it, that would save the studio a tremendous amount of money. And these studios were not making a lot of money, so it was like, it's whatever they could get through, and people loved it, and it was cool. So yeah, we kind of do that now with different singers that you'll hear on Pixabay, and just the regular raw tracks themselves.
Wow. Awesome. This is really nice to know. And yeah, so now I will also like to ask you about how do you produce and record your music, because you mentioned that you use tape, and I would like to you to explain people who may not know about analog recording and how does it work, and yeah.
Yeah, so it's I it's difficult. I guess that's the word. It's like, you really have to be committed to it, um to do it. So I mean, because it can sound great immediately, right? But you have to kind of know what you're doing. So all the things that you hear about, like in the digital production world, like gain staging,
Yeah.
phasing issues, these kind of things that you kind of take for granted, because your DAW will just kind of do it for you in a lot of cases, especially now it's getting more and more AI
Yeah.
automatic. Um, you really kind of got to know what you're doing, and be very deliberate in the analog process. And I think that when we started recording songs a couple of years ago for Brotheration, um, it took some time to work out some of the bugs. So even some of the early stuff had a lot of technical issues, which we couldn't, for various reasons, solve, because either couldn't access the equipment, or et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, it can sound really, really good. There's something to um analog music, in that you're running a sound through an electrical current,
Yeah.
right? Which kind of gives you, and tape also. Tape is like, it's got some magical element to it, where it compresses in a very nice way. It makes everything sound warmer and
Yes.
fatter, and, like, pumpy more. Your bass sounds just like a lot better, where because it has to share, it's got limited components, and everything has to share on there. And tape has a limited amount of things on there. So it has to push everything into it. And you have these physical restrictions in the analog world, which don't exist in the digital world. So in the digital world, you record track one, okay, it plays back track one in everything, the whole sound spectrum. Track two, track three, up to 20, 40 tracks. And
Mhm.
they're all playing back to you at the loudest level, with no limitations on, like, a sum. I don't know if that's correct. That's my theory, but it's like, but I know a tape that does apply. Like,
Yeah.
been some times when we've done songs, and it's not like we're just running it through the board itself on playback, and we're like, it's like we did record it, and we have digital files that were sent from other people in other areas or other countries. We'll just run it through the analog gear, and it sounds great. Do we really need to run this master through the tape? No, it sounds great. And we'll just do it. And then
Uh-huh.
oh man, how could we not have? It's like, it adds a real element to it, and it makes a big difference. But you have to be committed, because tape is expensive. You're constantly taking it down to get calibrated. You got to get out your Q-tips with your alcohol, and you're cleaning the heads, like,
Yeah.
all the time. You spend a lot of time preparing for something, Um, you know, and I think I don't know. I think it's a totally different approach to music production than you are in the digital. I've also produced quite a bit in the digital world too. I love it for the convenience, the ease, the options that you've got. Like, oh, I don't like that piano sound. I like that piano sound. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Just switch the plug in. Okay, no problem. Like that's fantastic, and these are amazing tools for creation.
Yeah.
In the analog world, it's kind of like, well, this is the piano I've got. Okay, well, the G note is out of tune. So that's
Really.
it. Okay, my tape machine needs to be calibrated, but the guy's not available till next month. Okay, so we're gonna have to figure out how to run it. Like, and you spend a lot of time planning your project. And I think they both have their advantages, but I like when you can finally get to a completed project in the analog world because you realize how much effort you put into
Effort. Yeah.
it. The players, like the players back in the 70s and 80s, like they didn't sit home looking at the latest plugins. They sat home practicing their scales, right? And they tapped into so much creativity that way. So
And I also wanted to mention that usually nowadays you go into a studio and of course you're paying for it and it can be expensive, but you can still do a lot of takes as needed. And for example, I'm a drummer, and when you are, just right in the moment and you hear the metronome and you're
yeah,
like, okay, this one has to be the good one. But still, you know that if someone messes up or if you messed up, it's okay because you can just ask for another one and on a second
sure,
one, you'll nail it, right? But when you're on recording an analog, you have to be really aware that everyone as a whole, and more if you're recording together, you have to vibe with it. And only I think those who have been really focused, as you said, on playing and studying their instrument can really nail it and also enjoy it, right?
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And
And
I think there's an element of compromise as well because sometimes when you record and there was a mistake or someone did something that was unplanned,
yeah.
you're like, well, it's good enough. Like if it's not terrible, you kind of go with it. And the more and more over the years that I've done like analog recording, um, listening back to, 'cause I'm a huge Stax label R&B 60s R&B fan. I love it. I study it. Like, how did they record in this little theater in Memphis?
Yeah.
And Motown as well. It's like, and like the hurdles they had to overcome. And I go back and I listen, and I'm like, they didn't plan that. Like totally, they didn't plan that. And
There's
like
no
this
way.
song,
Yeah.
right? This song, I know that like the saxophone player was standing a little bit too far away from the microphone, and it's like, and it's super cool. And um, I don't know, I love that stuff. Other people might find it like I'm nerdy, but I think it's kind of cool.
So yeah, I love it too. And I think it's really awesome how actually, for example, when it comes to solo, like guitar solo or saxophone or trombone, you get to think like, wow, they just did this in one take. And I'm sure that if there are two takes of these, that sometimes you can hear like take one and take two. Yeah, just a
Sure,
little bit. They are different, and you get to value it and appreciate it as well because it has some magic in it. So it's really cool.
totally. I like now that that so many like old studio recordings are coming out of like the bands in the studio. I think like they would record like scratch tracks or they would record um, you know, practice sessions or whatever it is, and you hear a song that you've known for 20 years, 30 years, even more. Like this song because you've heard the released album version, but then you hear that artist performing a completely different thing inside the studio, and you realize that like every take was unique. And
Exactly.
that's I think a lot of that's lost in the digital world because like there isn't alternative takes of like a song who's produced
Yeah.
digitally. It's like maybe there is like on little things, but like there's only one version of the song. There isn't
Yeah.
alternate versions of the song so much,
Yeah.
you know.
Totally. I
And
also.
I love digital. I mean, I love digital production. I think it's absolutely amazing. And I
Yeah.
you know I we I live in Pro Tools a lot, and to be honest, like even though we want to try to do things as much digitally as or analog as possible, we wouldn't be able to do what we do with collaborations of people that are all over the world if it wasn't for like Pro Tools or DAW. I mean, that's just the case. I mean, we wouldn't be flying people out from Jamaica, from Canada, from England. You know what I mean? This wouldn't happen, or you know, the expenses of, we can just pay for a studio wherever a singer is at in their hometown, get it done. They can send us a file. If we were really only doing pure 100% analog. So I don't think 100% analog really exists in the world unless you've got a lot of money and you've got a lot of time and you want to, your releases want to be like every couple of years. So yeah, absolutely. I love Pro Tools. I love all the technology, the stuff that's coming out. It makes things a lot easier so we can focus, more on actually playing.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think
On
it's
what
kind of the
matters.
lost art of music is playing. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's fun.
It is a whole world, but it's really cool to know more about it. But here's something about the instruments that usually will make it into the mix of any song. For example, like I'm thinking of course, bass, drums, guitar, at least rhythmic bass guitar,
Yeah.
then Hammond or organ, and
Yeah.
then if they could have a horn section, of course, that would make it even better.
Sure. So the kind of the makeup that we're currently using, which is kind of like the traditional one that they used back in the 70s, and it's still pretty much common today, is you have your drum and bass, which the lower end with the kick drum, right? And then in the low mids you have Hammond organ.
Mhm.
So we record with a real Hammond,
Wow.
with
Like,
Leslie, and it's like, talk about a nightmare, dude. I mean, like recording a Hammond organ is a art form all in itself, and we're still,
yeah.
I'm constantly learning, because you've got basically like this really loud speaker with two spinning speakers that are
Yeah,
going like
exactly.
this, shooting things in different directions, and you're like, okay, well, let's see, and then
Yeah.
at the end of it, you want, okay, is and plug, I mean, I've used and released with, like, every single Hammond plugin there is. They're pretty good, but the Leslie emulations, they don't do it justice. A real Leslie is such a spectacular instrument. It's so amazing, very hard to capture. um but anyways, you get that. That's like in the low mids, where you're doing like the offbeat bubbles, what they call
Mhm.
bubble in reggae, which is really the offbeats of the actual tempo line. Then you've got piano just sitting right around that and a little bit above that, that's playing like the drop on the 2 and the 4 beats. And then
Yeah.
the guitar sits way on top of that, playing along with the piano. So the piano and the guitar really have to be blended so that, like, they're not hitting on top of each other, because they're really playing the same thing.
Yeah.
The piano stays pretty steady in most cases with like slight little things, but like, the
Mhm.
guitar is the attack. That's
Yeah.
really where you hear the attack, but you hear the body from the piano itself. So when we record, we do um the drum and the bass, right? And then we have like a piano. You Usually I'll record the piano first with the drum and the bass, because
Mhm.
where the organ's going to sit, like, and when I say where it sits, it's not a mixing decision. It's a performance decision, because
Yeah.
where should you be, like which octave should you be, and especially when you deal with a Hammond organ, it's like, okay, which sound do you want? And Hammond is like the original synthesizer, so you've got, you know all kinds of harmonics, where you can do things, like, do you want
Yeah.
to have it like real high level, do you want it to cut through? So the piano is like kind of like the core center of your music. You need to figure out where to put your organ between the bass and the piano, and then the guitar sits on top.
I think it's a really good exercise to just now listen to a lot of reggae music, but having all this knowledge in mind and just being like, okay, I love to sing the bass lines usually because they are like very unique
Totally.
compared to other bass lines that typically, for example, in pop or rock music, they are more standard. They are easy to just play by ear even. But on reggae, it's just like a whole melody and it's dancing. You feel it like it's dancing, right?
Totally. Yeah, totally. The bass line is like, that's the groove. I mean, you'll have tons of my daughter, 2 days ago, she's like, why does all of your music sound exactly the same? I'm like, I don't know. she's like, no, reggae all sounds the same. Like, you're not listening. And especially if you're listening on your phone, you'll never know the difference because you don't hear bass. And that's a huge detriment, I think, to a lot of reggae where people listen on their phones. And you can have, I mean, there's so many songs that are the same chords and general feel on the beat. And the thing that really differentiates it is what the bass line is doing against the singers. And I would a brilliant example of this would be Sly and Robbie's work with Black Uhuru in the early 80s. Like if you listen to some of those albums, you're like, half the songs in the album are the same chords. Like what are, are the same chord progression within, like, you're thinking, how does every song sound different? It's the bass line. The bass line is like, it's got something different. And then, Michael Rose on top is singing off something different than what the bass line is doing. So it's bass. It's all bass, So I would say, like, I don't only do reggae. I do a lot of I actually on Pixabay and Canva, I have a kind of a long history with Canva and Pixabay because I'm a director of a music licensing company called Keyframe Audio, which is also on Pixabay. And I do direct. I'm the director of. Well, I work for CSAC Music Group, right, through Identify and Keyframe Audio. So we put out a lot of production music. So I get to work with all kinds of genres for production music for film and video, right? So I hear all kinds of different things. And I love all music. But reggae is really its own kind of beast. It's its own animal, it's like, and I can get it. People who listen to it can go like, oh, it's the same little, it sounds the same. Yeah, I get whatever. But the beat, as you as a drummer, this might be an interesting conversation, is like, and this is like how do you count reggae? Right. And this is kind of an ongoing, like, it's for decades, this has been an argument, right? Like, what's the correct count of reggae? Does the snare fall on the 2 and the 4, or is it falling on the 3?
Yeah.
The 3, but people argue with me. I mean, most people will say that it's the 3.
Yeah.
But the only reason I do that is a functional reason, is because as a keyboard player, I want to know that the piano is dropping on the 2 and the 4, right? Yeah. If that makes sense, the 2 and the 4, then my organ is playing the syncopation.
Exactly.
Right? So it's like that, it builds up, and then the snare actually drops on the 3. When I count like that, it's a lot easier for me to, like, construct a song and feel where the pocket's at, and that's really where the bass player is playing. Even if the drummer is just playing like a straight, like what you think is a 4/4 beat. A lot of this, it'll sound like it's a 4/4 beat, but you should count double time. So most times I've been in the studios, or performing or playing or whatever with any reggae musicians who really know what's going on, they'll always count double time. What you'd think is double time, but it's not. It's actually, reggae is pretty fast tempo wise, actually, like 150, right? 150, 160 faster.
I remember when I was starting playing drums, I remember talking about this with my drum teacher, like, how do you count this? What's the correct way of the feel, because it feels like a paradox, because you can go changing the count and it will, the count will be right, but the feeling is slightly different. And this is a really good one.
It's a good one. And it's interesting because as the studio tapes that they had of, like, Carly Barrett and Aston Barrett, Bob Marley's band, right? I think Carly Barrett's my favorite drummer of all time, even before he was in the Wailers, when he was in the Upsetters, and he was in the Hippie Boys back early 1970, 1969 in Jamaica. Absolute genius. So just a genius drummer. As we got the studio tapes, they've been coming out and get released online and stuff. You'll hear him, like, in the studio, and he'll count both ways. And
right?
And so then everybody's arguing, like, no, he counted this way. No, he counted this way. No.
It's like, both at once, like, they overlap.
Right. And he's interesting because he never did interviews to discuss, like, about it. Like a couple of places where he talks, he's like, I just how I feel. reggae is super interesting. It's interesting in its own music because even though reggae was influenced a lot by other genres, of course, the American R&B being the most,
Mhm.
jazz, reggae really gave birth in the early 70s to what became hip hop, right? With like Cool Herc and like Africa Bambaataa. But then you hear reggae being influenced back by hip hop, right? Like this. But so much reggae is so interesting, and like it kind of really evolved and developed kind of a lot on its own. Like it's got such unique like influences to it, right? Um, and it's because Jamaicans are really, and rightfully so, really proud of the music that they created, right? And they really take ownership of it. And um, nowadays, Jamaica's ruled by dancehall. I was just having a discussion with one of the artists, Jamaican artist, incidentally, who's a dancehall artist, but he says like, yeah, Jamaica's old dancehall, and nobody really wants to go play the old stuff. They call it the old
Um,
stuff, right? And now you see the dominance of reggae as far as new reggae groups coming out of like California,
mhm.
Hawaii, Samoa. Man, these guys are killer over there. They have a great sound. Um, but Jamaica still, they still have the heart of it, where like that sound came from. And I know some groups that have done some like classic reggae tunes are down in Jamaica
Mhm.
recently, and they're just like, man, there's that sound. There's something to it. They got it down
Yeah,
there.
there
They
you
got it.
go.
So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I did want to mention real quick my partners with Brotheration Records. It's not just me. The
Okay.
the
Yeah. First.
Yeah, so really the label was launched with me and my partner Spanky Kingston.
Mhm.
Um, he's been recording and performing mostly a lot in ska music
Mhm.
for decades. So he and I kind of like manage everything, and then like the primary like musicians and players they're working with us, and artists are Michelangelo Cazares.
Mhm.
Um, he's guitar player, John Mikey. He's played with everybody. I mean, on you know, opened all over for Third World, all over the place. We've been playing for years together. Incredible reggae guitarist. But those are the three core people that really kind of like get the projects together, um, and make it so we can actually finish something and release it.
Yeah, absolutely awesome to know about all of them. So people also have an idea that this is a whole group project and there's a lot
Yeah,
of people involved and behind it so that others can also benefit from this because I think it's very beautiful that you are sharing this with the whole world on Pixabay and that others can do what you said, that they can, use your music, sing on top of it, create a new version, use it for their own projects, creative projects, and spread these songs all over the world. So I think it's very beautiful.
I've actually had, and this is something that we do because I've had people contact us through Pixabay, like a video creator, and say, hey, you know what? Love your stuff. I do you guys do this song like in a song that they know or something like it? And we'll say sure, and we'll do it, and we send it to them. So and then put it up on Pixabay usually after that. It's like, but yeah, I
Wow.
mean, there's video creators out there that want to do stuff. I mean, like I said, like um this we put more and more time into this project, but I work with creators through Keyframe Audio and Identify, for video creators and artist rights and all this kind of thing all the time. So I'm really living that world out, even outside of Brotheration, and
Mhm.
love to see like video creators get music that they like and show some interest in the music, and not just like, okay, I'm grabbing this little stock tune, I don't care, like they
Yeah.
actually take interest in it. And that's great for the video creator side. And it, man, it's really the musicians, I don't care who you are, appreciate when someone
Yeah.
recognizes your music and says, hey, good job. And that's cool. So that's really cool. But yeah,
Yeah.
anybody wants to message us and say, hey, do you guys do a Gregory Isaacs tune? Hey, do you do that Bob Marley tune? We'd be like, oh, we can do that, let's try it.
That's awesome. Yeah. And there's also the hire me button on Pixabay so that people can even hire other creators. So
One of the songs that's on Pixabay now, I was contacted by a great reggae bass player out of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. He's like, man, guys, I got this, I got to get on track with you. I'm like, you got a studio? He's like, yeah, bam. Send a bass track. He was a bass player. Great. Put the song out. So yeah,
Wow.
anybody wants to get on it. And another singer he found us on Pixabay and he released like, I think 2 albums with all of our songs on it. And he asked, and we're like, yeah, man, like, um, we want to get, this is a side project. We want to get this music, do it more and more. And the more
Nice.
we're challenged, the better our production will be and the more things we have to do. And we really want to collaborate because we want to get some kind of, some energy behind people getting into this old music again. So
Um,
the latest release, I think the one
is it
I just
called
put
Love of My Life?
Love of My Life. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
great. That's an interesting song. So that singer, he's a legend. He's a singer with the Mighty Diamonds, which are one of the
It sounds
biggest reggae
amazing.
bands.
That track. I heard
Yeah.
it
So
the other day. I think this week. So yeah.
yeah. And that was a great thing because we had put the song together, which we had done a version of it with Vernon Maytone. Um, I, I had worked with him in the past, and he knew, and he was also with Spanky and my partner. And then he came along and he said, hey, I got a great idea of this tune. I said, let's do it. So it was a collaboration between us, him, and he's based out of Miami, but then his other studio is in Jamaica with Dean Frazier. And Dean Frazier's, he's
Wow.
a legendary saxophone player. He's Ziggy Marley's saxophone player. So Dean Frazier got involved with us, and it was, he did a lot of the production. But yeah, it finally came out, and Joseph Benaya is his name. He's a big name on Reggaeville and around the world. He's currently playing on tour with Burning Spear. He's from the old legendary Mighty Diamonds. He went under the name Capo Diamond when he was with the Mighty Diamonds are one of the biggest reggae bands of all time. It was a real honor to get to play with him.
Wow.
Yeah, so and that it's linking everyone together. We didn't want to do, we talked a lot about analog at the beginning,
Yeah.
but man, digital allows us to work with people all over the place, right? And
That's
and, and like and so we we definitely do a hybrid of both, I would say, you know.
now just to sum up this great interview. I would like to ask a final question on this is more philosophical maybe, but just if you have any quote or you know, any reflection that you would like to share with the world about how reggae has impacted your life as a musician, as a person, because I think there's always something really unique and beautiful to learn from each music genre because it gives some different type of magic. And yeah, just since you're a really
Mm.
pro and have a lot of experience, I would like to know about it.
I think it gives so much encouragement, and it's when you look at Bob Marley, right?
Uh-huh.
I love Bob Marley. I love tons of regulars, but with Bob Marley, and I look at what he achieved and where he came from,
Mhm.
and and here comes Bob Marley. And I've been down and stayed in the neighborhood around where Bob Marley grew up,
Um,
and it's rough. It's rough now. It was rough in the '90s. I mean, what it was like in the '60s.
yeah.
He's playing a music that nobody'd ever heard of. He's coming with a culture and a faith that nobody'd ever heard of. That looked talking about things, singing in an accent that half the people couldn't understand. Like, and he just did it and did it and did it and focused and went through a lot of trials and a lot of difficulties and achieved unbelievable success. And not only that, it's like the explosion of reggae that came out of that, and how it's influenced so many other types of musics. I don't, I'm not saying that we could all be Bob Marley, right? But wow, when you really focus, stay true to what you're doing, put all your creativity and all your energy into something, you can really achieve things. Don't make music about how many likes am I going to get out of this project. Don't make music about, is this song going to be the perfect song? Just create, make it a flow, Stay to what you're doing. Stay in the zone. When you're there, that's where the good things will happen. And I think that that's, if there's any music in the world, reggae really shows that with the example of Bob Marley, and then subsequently, like everyone else, Dennis Brown, the Gregory Isaacs, like everyone else who came out of Jamaica and took this, because I just want to say, and in support of that idea, is you look, I've played a lot of the musicians who were in the 70s and the 60s in Jamaica. These were super, super talented musicians. They could have started playing disco. They could have played something that was much more palatable to an American audience, and they could have just gone that way, right? But they said, no, we love our thing. We're doing our thing. And they did their thing with purity and it got rewarded in the grand scheme of things. So I think that reggae music is a great testament to focusing on your skill, being creative, and doing it for the right reasons, and your own creativity. That's it.
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that as well. So now we have a deeper understanding of reggae soul and how it has impacted the music as a whole, right? And I'm sure that our listeners will be just as inspired. So make sure to follow them on pixabay.com, Brotheration Records. I'll link it in the description. And thank you everyone for watching or listening. Stay curious, keep exploring, and make more music. Thank you so much.
Thank you.